Okay, welcome everyone. This is the monthly steering committee call. The agenda for today is to review any worker proposals that might have been submitted, provide some context for a steering committee vote. I also have a Via Crypto Handle rename discussion to potentially wrap this up, and then open forum for any other business that anybody wants to bring up. So let's get rolling here. We can start off with the worker proposal. There is a couple, one from me and one from Wayne. So I'll quickly introduce that. The one from me is FIO 91. It's in the queue for voting. Steering committee, here's the link to the board. You can take a look at that. It's basically Ledger 1.0 final payment. So I went through, that was yesterday actually, went through the old board and closed out all of the old worker proposals. And what I was doing as part of that is just kind of checking, making sure that they are properly represented on the new board. And one wasn't, and that's actually this one. So there was a worker proposal to build the Ledger 1.2 application by our vendors, and they built that. And that worker proposal was approved, but they actually had their payment split. There was 80% paid upon dev completion, which they got paid a few months ago, and 20 to be paid after the app is approved by Ledger, which obviously the approval was taking months now and much longer. So they still have not gotten paid that 20%. And I missed moving that worker proposal over when into the new system. So this is funds we've already committed to, and to the vendor. I just wanted to be represented in the new worker proposal. So that's what it is. It's 5,000. It's actually denominated in euros. It's 4,800 euros. So at current rate, it's $5,100. I added a 10% currency exchange buffer so that we don't have to like reapprove it if there's a small deviation in rate of exchange, but they will be paid whatever 48.06 euro converts to USD once Ledger approves it. As a reminder, the steering committee has also approved the audit of the application, which is supposed to speed up the process. That audit has been kicked off. Hopefully, it'll be completed soon. So there is a chance that the app will be listed by the end of this month. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. Any questions on that worker proposal? Okay, then Wayne, maybe you can introduce the other one you've submitted.
Yeah, thanks, Pablo. All right, so mine is also something that was committed prior, well over a year ago. These are MOUs that have been aged. That the MOUs timeline was extended, and now I've got two reps that are requesting bounties. One of them, Micah, for SecUX, which just recently completed. And then Ola sent me a request for CoinHub, which, as you see, Adam, we got to discuss some things with CoinHub as well. But CoinHub and two others, I've attached them. Let me see, it was CoinHub, MyCointainer, and I believe Swift. Swift and the MyCointainer, I was planning for. CoinHub, I had not allocated for, but those bounties were to be paid out in liquid. So I don't know if there was any kind of period where on the Ola side. So it's 5,000 locked FIO for Micah, for SecUX completing those integrations for the MOU that was extended, and then for Ola it's $4,425 in locked FIO for those three. The majority of that coming from CoinHub, which we've got to discuss as well. It's CoinHub. They've completed everything except for FIO requests. It's not really that great of an integration, but everything else functions properly. And their team informed Gil and has informed others that they're basically out of operation. The app is still live. They don't have any more money. They're trying to find a buyer. And so they're basically defunct right now. We haven't paid them their grant either. And I'm pretty sure why Adam had listed them in the additional items, other item agendas. But those items are live. So the wallet will stay live. Eventually, it just won't be updated if nobody takes over the project. And then eventually down the road, it won't work anymore. So that being said, in terms of the BD rep that signed the MOU, I feel we should pay him for the bounty for the items that work properly. But we do need to discuss the MOU in terms of what to do with those allocated grant funds for CoinHub.
So the actual payment to the partner was already included in this FIO 37, right? Which kind of has, I think Emily submitted all of the ones that,
Yeah, she said,
were kind of in the hopper, so to speak.
yeah,
This worker proposal is to pay the BD their
bounty.
compensation. So David, is you the one who got to put that model in place? And what was the expectation? Is the expectation that the BD rep is paid even though they're no longer with working for the foundation, or is there a timeout, or is it like what was actually put in place? Do you recall?
I'd have to go back and pull up the Google sheet. I'm not sure actually whether it defined anything specific on that topic. I can pull it up, try and find it while we're here and see if it had anything.
Yeah, if you could, that I think would be helpful. I guess my other two questions would be, one, are there any other potential ones in FIO 37 that if they come through, there would be a payment to the BD rep as well? If so, then maybe that should be captured in there as well. Or maybe it should really be just modification of FIO 37 to begin with. It just had more funds there, right? So it's kind of tracked
Yeah.
under the single worker proposal as to, past MOU partner commitments. And the other question I had is, Emily, maybe you can comment about the amounts being incorrect. I see your comment in there.
Yeah, so I was checking the spreadsheet that was attached to the work proposal. And I see for the one that's specifying my container, there's like a bounty for FIA request, and my container did not do a FIA request integration. They did a FIA send integration. So I'm not totally sure how the bounties work, but in any case, whatever the amount is for FIO requests is not correct because they didn't complete FIO requests.
Yeah, it's the same dollar amount though. The form's wrong where he checked FIO send request instead of FIO send, but the amounts were the same from what the information I have from the past data of what those bounty amounts were.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, I mean, in the notes and section of the bounties, what I've completely, filled out way back then, it didn't have a time limit. So there was no time limit. I mean, the criteria is, did the partner launch it? Is it publicly available? If we paid a bounty to the integrator that's above a schedule, then the payment to the BD rep could be reduced. But I'm not sure if that was the case in either of these. And of course, it's for lock tokens, 4% every 30 days.
Yeah, that was my concern. Like Ola had been silent. The last bounty he was paid out, he was pretty belligerent and rude about it not being. He wanted liquid instead of locked, and so he went silent.
That was definitely clear. That
his whole justification was he's no longer working. It should be liquid. I refused to do it on the last one, and so he ceased all communication for the last, I don't know, 3-4 months, maybe even longer. I haven't looked at it until 2 days ago when he sent me that form.
So I have a question that's similar to FIO 94. Do we not have other BD reps that are working on bounties only that should be accounted for somewhere? Because I think Surash is one of those BD reps who's being paid on a bounty basis. And I'm not sure whatever bounties he would get is being accounted for somewhere.
Yeah, there's no more outstanding there. For him.
I know, but he's like actively searching out deals, no?
Yeah, so he knows we still have the option to do a rev share model with the dashboard, even though that hadn't been very successful. So that's what he's leading with now, and he's also waiting for us to have the details for the MetaKeep wallet because he's interested in pursuing that too. So other than that, he's got no other payments going to him.
So this worker proposal would cover all outstanding BD bounties.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's pretty straightforward. Was a commitment, and then it should be approved. I guess the question is, do we approve it this or a modification to FIA 37? I guess it doesn't really matter. We can do it either way.
Well, I guess it depends on what we do with 37 because as I mentioned, we should discuss what's going on with CoinHub because there are probably some funds that they won't be getting for that, you know.
Okay. Do we want to discuss this now?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Emily, did you want to share some of the details, I guess, that you and Gil got from the CoinHub team? And I'll share.
I mean, you pretty much explained it already. The only reason why we hadn't paid them is because payments are contingent on an announcement, and because they're out of operations, they have nobody to announce anything. So therefore, we don't pay them. And that's pretty much it. So I'm assuming that, you know, the amounts are just going to expire and they won't get any funds. And I think that's pretty simple to me anyways. But yeah, the integrations, all the features except for FIA requests are currently live. They're working. They're just not going to continue any sort of development. So at some point in time, one could expect that the app will not work anymore if, you know, it's not properly updated for the, you know, whatever app store that it's on. But yeah.
And as Gil mentioned in the chat, they were given an extension that time lapsed as well too.
So they're already
Yeah,
outside
well,
of the schedule?
Well, they were given an extension to do the announcements, which they didn't do. And they were also fixing some bugs with FIA requests. So they did get the FIA requests done on time, but then we noticed some bugs and it wasn't working. And as they were working on the bugs, then they came back to us and said, "Oh, we're out of business." So, so they have some sort of version of FIA requests that are live, but it's not a functional version of it.
Well, if it's a not functional version, then to me, that doesn't satisfy the requirement, no?
Right. So they have a bunch of other features that are working
Oh, I
that
see.
that are live, that work well. The only thing is that they don't have an announcement, and payment is contingent on announcements. So to me, it's pretty simple that they don't get paid because they haven't announced anything.
And if they're going out of business, aren't they gonna discontinue those products or?
Yeah, there'll be no
They-
updates.
Yeah, they told us
We
that
did
the app.
discuss that a few times.
What'd you say, Adam?
Oh, sorry. We did discuss that, go over that a few times. So I mean, we'd expect that the wallet in most cases would still continue to run as they probably don't have their own infrastructure they're dependent on for the APIs and that sort of thing. But the most I'd expect that wallet would be available in the App Store would probably be no more than 3 to 6 months because they wouldn't be able to maintain the updates. So even at
Gotcha.
that point, they wouldn't be able to, you know, give this product out to the intended consumers for more than, you know, it's not that long. So I don't see any point.
And they have passed the timeline, the deadline for announcement, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to me, I agree. This is pretty straightforward. I guess we don't pay that.
Yep.
So then maybe Wayne, what do you do, or Emily, since you own that worker proposal, is you submit a correction to this worker proposal to take out the coin hub amount and maybe add the partner, the BD payments? Does that make sense or not?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, they would just have to submit a subtask on there, right?
I mean, I suppose we could do that. The only thing is that the BD payments include my container and my work proposal doesn't include my container. So it wouldn't exactly line up. I think it would make more sense just to have the BD bounties as a separate proposal, and then I can update the one that I have to get rid of the coin hub amount.
Okay, I'm fine with that as well. Okay, so does the steering committee have enough information to vote on PO 91 and 94?
Yep.
Cool, then that covers that. Let's see, what's the next agenda item? Okay, FIO crypto handle rename. I don't spend too much time on this, certainly not gonna rehash all of the background on this, other than just maybe paste a link to this page, that talked about it. But just, here's the page, quick recap. There is a conversation that happened a while back regarding potentially changing the name FIO crypto handle to some other name. Again, I won't go through all the reasoning. You can read it in the document. And there was basically a request for comment from the community on initially two, and then expanding to 3 variations, changing it to name 3, to FIO ID or to FIO handle. Initially, when the conversation was had in the steering committee, there was also a straw poll in terms of whether we should leave it as FIO crypto handle, basically don't do anything. And back then, nobody from the steering committee, and actually nobody on the call, voted to keep the name unchanged. So I guess what I would like to do is just kind of try to close the loop on this. We have now collected feedback from the community and from the partners. It is now in the document. So the question is, what is the next step here? What is is there any consensus that the steering committee is leaning towards based on the feedback period and the feedback received from partners and community in terms of what we want to do? And I guess there would be 4 options. One is just don't do anything, call it FIO crypto handle, continue to do that, switch to names 3, switch to FIO ID, or basically drop the crypto from FIO handle. From FIO crypto handle and just call it FIO handle. Those seem to be the 4 options on the table. So maybe we can just quickly go around the steering committee table and see if people are leaning in any particular direction. I always go first, so this time I'll go last. Why don't we start with Adam?
So I did actually throw another name in the hat. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier. It didn't make it in the chat in any of our discussions, though. There wasn't a couple of them internally. I did just add it to that doc too. So I am more or less leaning towards just dropping the crypto from handle altogether, just going with FIO handle, because it's, I think it's more friendly and it kind of relatable to in the context of what we're trying to use it for, generalized identity. And we're not trying to inundate people with complicated matters like crypto and don't even want them thinking about it. So I think it's a huge, the pros are good. I don't, I just hear the cons. The cons generally just in this context, I don't think matter. And the other one I threw in the hat was Web3 name, because someone had mentioned name 3, and we did discover that there was some website. It looked like something like a portal page that was called name 3, if I recall correctly. I looked at page here in the doc. And then Web3 name kind of stuck with me, because it's kind of like very general and encompasses all of crypto without saying crypto. And we're also kind of playing on the Web3 nomenclature. And we're bringing back the name aspect of that as well. But if I couldn't go with Web3 name, I would certainly go with just dropping crypto from Fio Crypto Handle and just going with Fio Handle.
Okay, let's see, who is all, next, Emily?
I think I'm leaning towards Theo.id, just because through many conversations with a lot of the partners, it seems like majority of them don't have an issue between keeping the branding or getting rid of the branding. Some did express, as I mentioned in previous calls, that it might be confusing with regards to the Theo chain. And then others said that they had some, they might consider more prominent placement. Edge was one of those if we got rid of Theo, but vast majority of them said they didn't care at all. And they actually thought it would be a benefit to keep the Theo branding, given that Theo has a growing reputation and a growing brand recognition. So I think I would lean towards that because it's short, it's kind of catchy. And most of the partners seem to prefer that option.
Okay, Wayne?
Yeah, for me, I initially like name 3 and we saw that some of the issues with that. I think it would just be easy, like Adam mentioned. So I agree with that as far as going with Theo Handle. People are familiar with the term handle a little bit more now. Gamers are already familiar with the handle, Twitter handle. Just having a handle that's more universal. So I just think going to Theo, just to Theo Handle, dropping the crypto would probably be the easiest transition. And the best
Okay.
way to know what it is.
GP?
I originally was attracted to the whole name 3 piece. You and I had spent a lot of time thinking about it, and then kind of looking at what the kind of potential pitfalls were with that. Then kind of started looking over at the Theo ID, which I do like, but I also agree with Adam and Wayne that the potential low hanging fruit is just to go with Theo Handle. As far as what's kind of acceptable out in the place, protecting the brand integrity. I am somewhat torn with the fact of the private label, kind of white label concept of being able to have something that's kind of net neutral that people could use. But right now I'm leaning towards a handle with a kind of a fast follow on as Theo ID.
All right, and my point of view is kind of in line, I guess, with everybody, which is I think Theo just dropping the name is probably the least disruptive, right? It's because you can even say it's not really even rebranding. It's just like, you can just do this gradually because Theo Crypto Handle and Theo Handle are kind of synonymous. So the transition would be much smoother than to go with any other name. And I think it kind of accomplishes most of the objectives, except, it kind of still retains the Theo branding, but based on the feedback, it might not be a bad idea anyway. So I'd probably go with Theo Handle as well. I still do like Theo ID. We actually will use Theo ID as the URL shortener for the profile we're launching, right? So all your Theo crypto handles will be Theo ID / your crypto handle, just because it's short. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion. Any other feedback from the community outside of the steering committee on that topic? Luke and David, is your
Yeah, I was gonna say, I definitely like Theo ID as something that will last for a long time. I'm a little concerned about the name 3 or, even Handle, not less so with Handle, but even Handle being something that's kind of, makes sense for a period of time and then maybe doesn't make sense later. It's an identifier and that's ultimately what it is. So if we have to make the change, I like that. I appreciate all the work that Emily did to get feedback from the partners. And as we could see from that feedback, even Opera, our biggest really kind of creator of handles today, has different perspectives than others. So it's like, you're probably not going to make everybody happy. So ultimately, it's one of those things where it's like, we could try it, but will it make a huge difference? I don't know. ultimately, making the product something people absolutely can't live without is what's most important. And that's may not be really impacted much by the name. But that said, it's something to, stir up some new conversations, get some new ideas going. And I really do like the fio.id domain. I think it's a really powerful domain that kind of shows you're serious. So for that reason alone, I'm kind of interested in that, and because it's really, really small. But other than that, I don't have a super strong opinion. I think that, dropping the crypto makes sense. If we decide to not take the bigger project on of rebranding completely to something new. And so that kind of might be a sub step to take. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
And I sort of put in the chat, and I do have to run, unfortunately. I mean, if I were voting, I would go with Fio Handle for all the reasons described. I think it achieves many of the goals. It's going to be so much easier. I mean, any of the other ones are a major lift. And it leaves the door open if it's, the progress of the project is such that something like Fio ID, makes more sense in the future. You can still move to it. I don't feel like going to Fio Handle is that big of a change from Fio Crypto Handle. So it's not like it closes the door on that. Fio ID to me starts thinking about decentralized identity. And obviously we've had visions of how Fio can play in that, but it hasn't really progressed that way. If it did start progressing that way, or had the was in making efforts to progress that way, then that might make more sense to me. But I think it's just a heavy lift. Don't underestimate the work required to change the Fio ID or something that different. It's a lot of work. So I do Fio Handle.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like it kind of most everybody's leaning towards Fio Handle. People still liking Fio ID, and I still like Fio ID as well. But it seems like it's an easier change. So, and from a steering committee standpoint, it looks like majority is in that direction. So I will submit a steering committee decision just to formalize that we are going to go with Fio Handle. And once we have the vote, I'll close the topic. All right, what else? I guess that is it for the agenda. So now open forum.
Real quick with that one, probably
Yeah.
before we close that one out. So let's say you do go Fio Handle. How does that solve the original concern of a short URL for the dashboard? That was kind of the driving force for this. Will you then go use or go find a new domain, or what will you do with Handle?
No, actually, as I mentioned, we will be using Fio.id for that shorthand application, right? So
okay, I
it
missed
will
that.
still
Okay,
be
cool.
it will still be Fio.id / the Fio crypto handle, and once you land on it, it will say Fio handle, but the URL will say Fio ID primarily because
Okay.
it's short, right? So
Cool.
that
No,
could
I missed
potentially
that part.
also be a softer way to introduce that, right? If we get some, we kind of can gauge perhaps some response from people based on the URL alone, right? Which also potentially gives us the option to switch the name. But yeah, we are already rolling. We've acquired the domain, we already have that in development, so it will have that URL structure irrespective of name pick.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. I like that transition too, if that becomes something we want to do later.
Cool. All right. Open forum. Any other topics anybody wants to discuss with the steering committee?
Any insight? How was the BP meeting today?
It was good. We haven't had.
Recorded?
Yeah, it's recorded. I just posted that, so you can go watch it, listen to it. We haven't had one actually in a long time. I was surprised that last one was in April of last year. That's kind of what my notes showed. So I don't know. It was a long time. So yeah, well, I think it was good. Just a quick update, and I'd like to be doing those more often, maybe every 3 months. So. Anything else? Actually, I have one other thing I wanted to bring up, and that is the We lost David. I wanted to actually get his perspective on that, but I guess hear everybody else's perspective. I now have put together this, and you've seen this because I've emailed it around, but if you haven't, here's the link again to the Treasury document, which really spells out everything related to the FIA Treasury in terms of how much funds we have, what they are worth in USD. That's updated every day. It lists all of the wallets that Foundation owns and that it holds non-FIO and liquid FIO and the special use tokens. It lists all of the active worker proposals. It also kind of tracks the runway and tracks it on a daily basis. So you can actually see how the runway changes from day to day. And it also has income. So it actually tracks every single FIO that the foundation is earning every day. So you can see, what is the income generated. So for example, right now looks like in May, we generated $148,000 worth of income. Now, obviously, most of that is in the foundation reserves, but all of that information is basically automatically updating every day. I will add actuals in here as well. I haven't done that yet, but I will. And I guess my question to the steering committee is, whether there are any objections to just publicly sharing this. In the past, we have been sharing most everything, but there seems to have been some apprehension for potentially sharing runway information or anything like that. I recall from the past, but I guess just wanted to check with the steering committee if there are any objections to making this public and anybody in the community having, access to this. This link is currently public, so anybody can see it. It's just we haven't been publishing it that much. Any thoughts on that?
So you think the concern around just exposing what our runway is, maybe?
Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to get David's perspective because I think he had some concerns where when he was maintaining the document, it wasn't public. So that's why I kind of wanted to, I guess, hear him, but obviously he's not on the call anymore. So just want to hear it from, I guess, from the steering committee and from the community if we believe that is a concern or not.
I'm not 100% sure where I stand with it, but I would be inclined to be cautious about sharing the runway, just because if things aren't looking good, I feel like potentially people might freak out, and that might cause negative sentiment, and then that might rapidly decrease our runway even further if people stop buying handles or stop purchasing the token, and then things could just kind of go from like a predicted reasonable runway to something that will like completely change in a matter of a few days. And I think that would be a little bit concerning. So I would be inclined to not publish it.
I would kind of agree with Emily just a little bit, especially considering kind of the hair triggers that people kind of have right now, given the climate. There's a lot of knee-jerky decisions being made out of there, and it could negatively affect in the short term. Although positive in the long term, I think the short term might be detrimental.
I don't think it'd be the most terrible thing to put out there. I mean, there are certainly risks. I would just have it public and not shine a spotlight on it at all, and just have it available should someone come looking for it. But yeah, I think it's not a huge deal. I don't need to make an announcement or anything like that about it.
No, of course not. That would never be the intent, right? My counter argument to what you guys are saying would be that the foundation is already publishing some pieces of this out there. So if somebody wanted to start putting those pieces together, they can. very easily. I mean, the burn rate is in worker proposals, which are public. The public accounts that the foundation has are public already on the knowledge base. And, so somebody could put this information together, and when they do, they may do it inaccurately, right? Versus, you know, this is an accurate representation of where we are. So that would be a counter argument, although I totally see your argument. I think that was probably what was the thinking in the past. Luke, as a treasurer, do you have a opinion on that?
Yeah, I was gonna wait for the steering committee to chime in. I think, you know, when I talk to people in conversation, I say, hey, we got like 2 years of runway. You know, I know we don't have exactly that right now, it's 33, but you know, that's generally considered a good thing because there are startups that are like scrambling for funds and a bunch of companies going out of business right now in a bear market because they just didn't manage things well. And I think in a sense we did, and we made tough cuts, you know. So I think it actually could be a positive in this market, especially. I don't know that it necessarily, you know, has to be promoted other than, you know, who actually goes in and digs deep into our Confluence docs and goes into the guts of, you know, how does FIO actually operate? I don't know that a whole lot. I mean, it might be nice to see web stats on that, how often those pages are viewed, but I don't see a problem putting it in there. Like I said, we already, like Bob said, we already show, you know, in terms of transparency, all the different addresses. So it's like, to me, it kind of highlights the idea that we are a DAO and there is transparency there. If we were a company that was looking to get investment, or if we want to like move that direction, you know, that would be a totally different story. And there have been some valid criticisms about, you know, competitors kind of just seeing us as open book and taking our ideas and running with them, and just looking for every opportunity to leverage the information we put out publicly against us. But I also think that for the type of people I enjoy working with the most, and the people that I'm most interested to support FIO, it's these type of open, transparent approaches to things are, again, really positives. They're really, you just can't buy that type of integrity. And so, you know, I guess I have this bias towards the good guy wins. It's not necessarily true, but I think this is, by making this at least available, you know, in our Confluence pages that are part of kind of almost like our team area of hanging out, that really shows a lot of integrity and character, and something that I'm frankly pretty proud of from a treasury perspective. So we've never had a like moratorium on this information. We've never said you can't talk about this. You know, I do talk about it often in both when I talk about the challenges FIO faces, but also when I talk about how much we've accomplished and what we've overcome with much less budget than other organizations that did get a lot of funding. So yeah, my vote, I think, is that I would want this available somewhere. I do think accurate information is better than non-accurate information. And as I try to figure out all the different worst case scenarios, you know, I think anyone who would make a decision, a knee-jerk decision, especially to either not participate in something with FIO, like a partner or something like that, I feel like they can kind of do that already anyway. And again, they might do it out of inaccurate information. So, and also too, at the same time, as someone who thinks about markets and capital and all that, it's like, I would actually want them to make eyes open decisions. Like if they're like, you know what, I don't know if you're going to be around in 3 to 5 years, I'm not going to commit to this, then that's actually, from a certain perspective, a good decision. Like they're not going to waste capital in something they don't believe in. Whereas if they're like, no, we're going to partner with you so strongly that we're going to make sure you're around in 3 to 5 years, that's a totally different partnership. And I want them to know exactly where we stand to be able to make that commitment. So I'm just always going to value transparency over anything that's not transparency, but that's just more my personality. So that's my view, but I fully understand the concerns as to how this could be used against us. And I kind of put that on the pros and cons list. And still, for me, I think the pro still is better. But again, it's not really a treasury decision in my mind. It's more kind of a policy decision for the business development concerns and partnership concerns. So I'm happy either way. I'm just glad that the link is actually public, meaning we can just send it to someone when it's relevant. For example, if they have the wrong information, that I would argue for maintaining, so that, you know, somebody could get this and go do bad things with it. But if we ever are like, no, I want to keep this hidden, I'm just going to argue strongly that's not in the best interest of the DAO and our core belief systems.
Yeah, I think I'm more aligned with your thinking there, Luke, and actually I think you brought up a very good point. I think that we actually have a very decent runway. I know we talk about, like, hey, we really need to reduce costs, but because we were talking about it, I think that when compared to many other crypto project, it is not, totally unreasonable. And actually also, and this is probably something I should add to this document, this is a conservative look, which means it assumes no income at all, right? And clearly that's not the case. I mean, obviously we know that the subsidies will run out, but if you take a look at May specifically, where we're, spent quote unquote 175 and we actually received 150 in income, right? We effectively just burned $25,000, right? In May alone. Right? Obviously that's going to change, but I should probably actually build this, also build a kind of more aggressive runway, which is like make some income assumptions as well, which obviously that will extend the runway even further.
Yeah, very good point. And again, I'm just basing that off conversations I've actually had where people are like, how's FIO going? In the context of all these other businesses going out of business or major projects that literally had hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars under management just going away. And when I say, yeah, we got 2 years of runway, they're like, dang, wow, well done. Like they see it as impressive. So, but again, I don't know that it's a treasury decision as much as it's a partnership and business development concern. I fully respect, appreciate the negatives that could potentially come out of, the wrong people making the wrong decisions on this. But again, I feel like we have to decide, are we going to be transparent in a DAO format? And again, from day one, we've always published, these are the DAO addresses. And to me, builds trust that there's not just somebody running off with all the funds. And that's the ultimate thing that is important, is that this is transparent and that you can trust the decisions being made in a decentralized way. And this accomplishes that in a really good way, but it doesn't mean you have to go tweeting about it or promoting it, and unless there's some business reason to do so.
Yeah, well, one of the things where it's going to turn practical here is we're in the process of enhancing, rebuilding the website, and as part of that, we're going to merge the knowledge base into the website and basically eliminate the knowledge base, right? So all the content on the knowledge base will be updated and transitioned over to the new website. Because the idea is that the website really becomes this central repository of all things FIO, and there's no reason why we need to have a separate knowledge base repository other than legacy, right? So, and obviously we do have those addresses on the knowledge base, right? Like here's where the foundation keep funds. I would kind of just thinking, out loud here, if we were migrating that, I'd probably not copy the addresses, but we just talk about, how the foundation functions, talk about governance, and, somewhere in there probably have a link to this document. If you care about foundation financials, here's where you can find it, right? So that's how I would make it potentially available. Otherwise, if I don't do that, then I guess I could just recopy the content from the knowledge base, right, and let people kind of put it together. But that's to me, that's kind of less transparent. So I don't know, that's kind of where I guess it kind of becomes maybe practical.
Yeah, agreed. And given the concerns here, that's probably a good idea, is to not include those addresses, but basically talk about the transparency, talk about the ideal of how we do things, and then kind of bury the lead, I guess, bury it underneath there somewhere. So if someone really wanted to do it, for example, you put it in like some Confluence page that talks about our governance or something like that. Because I assume that the community conferences, that stuff's all going to remain there, right? That's not going to be on the main website. The nitty gritty details.
Well, we haven't decided that exactly. I would think a lot of the details on governance will remain on the wiki. I do want to introduce some high-level governance concepts that are currently on the wiki that need to be on the webpage in terms of how is the foundation run, how is the FIO token governance work, right? So at a high level, it's going to be there. And so in that way, once it's actually launches, we'll probably eliminate that high level information, but the details in terms of like, hey, here's, how worker proposals, issues in JIRA work and all that boring stuff, of course, will still remain in the wiki. So I'm not sure where to take this. I don't think there is I guess, from a steering committee standpoint, I guess you can say that majority is saying we should not make this public. Is that correct?
Yeah, not really public, just out there, bury it in a Confluence page describing the governance, like Luke said, probably the best approach.
Well, I don't think those are two, I like things to be clear. Either we are publishing this or we're not, right? And then obviously placement is a secondary thing, right? And I think everybody's in an agreement that there's no need to kind of like promote, our financials. There's no benefit to that. So that obviously wouldn't be the case. But I guess the question
what I'm
ultimately
saying
is
is, so
whether
long as
this
there's not,
document
like-
is publicly accessible or not, right? Is really the question, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess I'm saying, public, but so long as, like I was saying earlier, don't draw attention to it with an announcement, it's fine.
Okay. Is that how others feel as well? Anybody oppose? That it should be not public at all, I guess would be the counter argument.
No, I mean, I agree with you guys. It's, public but not promoted. If someone wants to do their digging and do their due diligence in the field, they could see it. But it's not just out there where someone just clicks on a page and doesn't understand what they're looking at, find it, and can try to spread a lot of FUD about it. It would have to be someone that understands what they're looking for. So in a wiki and Confluence would be fine, just not anything that's on a main one of the main website pages, I would think.
Yeah, I think I probably lined up on that as well, right? So publish it, but not bring a lot of attention to it, knowing that it is there in all transparency.
All right, cool. Settles that. Anything else anybody wants to bring up before we wrap up?
Yeah, I had something, I just lost it again, but I was gonna ask, has anyone played EOS poker, like poker on the EOS chain lately? Is that still a thing?
I have no idea. I've never played that. Luke, have you?
I was just gonna say, I never knew that it was a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing about, it was a DApp EOS poker ages ago. I was not sure if it was still active, given that, I know that some things are kind of changing in the gaming space with EOS and because I was, like I was gonna lead in with would anyone be interested in like playing a poker game, not just poker in general, but actually poker on the FIO chain.
On the FIO chain, how would you do that?
Well, one step is we'd actually have to include the a lot of the probability stuff, the random number generation that Wax would provide, and I think also it's now a feature on Antelope, would require that feature for the net random number generation. But essentially, you would have your cards randomly distributed on the chain, and you would play on the chain, and I think the block time would allow for it. Definitely a good way to get people using their FIO crypto handles. I know people love poker and on the blockchain. Well, why not do it atomically, right? It's kind of my mindset.
I
and
would
it's
much
just-
rather partner with some other poker game and have them incorporate the FIO crypto handle. I mean, we're not poker game operators. Who's gonna? This seems like it requires a lot of energy and resources to build and deploy.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that's why I was asking if anyone had heard of like EOS poker, because they had already, there was already stuff built for it that could be adapted, right? And then honestly, I would go for it would be like on a more autonomous style game, right? Like you'd have your house join the game and host it or something on the contract. But just kind of something I was kind of had short interest in. So
Yeah, I think I'm a really of the opinion that we should explore, and hopefully, Wayne, you're thinking about it every day, is try to really find utilization opportunities where rather than like spend this energy and money building it, is just like, can we partner with some game, poker game or not, right? And if they use FIO handles, then potentially, fund some incentive that tells them, hey, if you use the FIO handle in your game, then you're gonna get an extra sword or a golden sword, or you're gonna get some NFT, or you're gonna get more poker chips or something like that, right? Where it's now we don't have to operate the game, and the partner gets some co-marketing with us and some buzz around it, and of course we specifically introduce utility to meet those types of campaigns. If done right, could be super lucrative, but obviously requires us finding a partner.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're exploring. I guess my question for Adam, is this something like coming from Adam as a steering committee as proposing something that FIO builds, or is this something you're thinking outside of your FIO responsibilities you would have interest in just building on?
Yeah, it's a little of both because we still have the initiative where we wanted someone to build a game on the FIO chain, and maybe it was just like leveraging the FIO crypto handle in some in some promotion or some other mechanism that they could provide. But the intention is more games on the FIO chain, right? And there's a lot of interest in poker right now, and taking a look at it, it actually looks relatively simple to implement a smart contract implementation of it. It's already out there for certain chains. So yeah, kind of looking for like a quick and dirty game that can be integrated with the protocol. Maybe it could even be like you said, like we're going out looking for new initiatives to create with these gaming platforms. Maybe there's something out there that would be really lucrative. Yeah, I've just kind of seen where the interest is, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a game like built on the chain itself, but kind of see where we are as far as where the interest is.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some interest, but I'm more in line with Pavo and even myself and Michael. We've had some talks with some different projects. One of them called Candy Club, kind of doing the same thing. They've created their own online betting platform and just get them to be able to utilize the FIO protocol within there as their handle, as their game. And I think they can even add the ability to utilize FIO tokens within there if they want, but that would really be up to them. And to answer your question about EOS poker, I've been searching while everybody was talking, and it looks like it's not alive anymore. All the links are dead.
Yeah, that was my initial suspicions. And sometimes, the websites don't move a lot and they don't update, but the games are still active. So wanted to see if there was anyone actually familiar with it still.
Now, there's another one that we've been talking to. GP actually knows, it just kind of stalled because he's had other things going on, but Chain Games is another one we should look at.
I've got a bug in the ear, and there's some change that's going on over there as far as like the game properties and what they're bringing to market. They're in the process of actually retiring a lot of those because they're making kind of the next evolution step towards really having their Unity SDK, which they're just now finishing, kind of front run that. And actually becoming more of a build play shop versus just putting games out. But I've had numerous conversations with the development team as well as some of the incoming new leadership over there about how to integrate handles into that platform. I know that the advisory work I've done for them, I've definitely accounted for it already.
Yeah, I don't know that they have anything like a poker, but they do have. I can remember even 2 years ago playing Chaino, which is just a version of Uno, where you're able to everybody plays, like we've had a group on a live chat that would join the game and play. And, you know, you bet tokens and then you can play for free and then you can have prizes. So
You know, I'm glad to talk to Adam about those guys about it again. You know, those games are the games I'm talking about that are being retired. They're probably gonna be pushed up underneath a different platform and altogether. Because they're kind of switching gears as a business. So I don't know how much retrofitting would do into something like that. But again, I'm glad to have the conversations just to see where that is.
All
All
right,
right, couldn't remember what the other thing was.
go ahead, Ed.
Uh, couldn't remember what it was, so I'm done.
All right, anything else? If not, thanks so much, everyone.
take care, everybody.
Thank you.